What's up, associates? Welcome back to the Anime Association. I am your host, Kyle Tim times 10, and I am joined today with Anime Addict. How you doing?
Doing good, man. Glad to be here.
Nice to have you here. And today we are reacting to One Piece episode 1128. And boy, was it a banger. But before we get into that, go on ahead and click that subscribe button and ring that notification bell so you can stay up to date. This episode was crazy. So we're just going to jump straight into it. Saturn appears and he causes a literal storm. Going crazy. Yeah, the way that they pulled it off in the anime was insane with the spider creeping up on the screen and then you see the waves. One of my favorite parts was the vice admiral standing on the ship and he's looking around seeing the storm brewing and like he's like, "Oh shit." Like he knows what's going on. How did you feel when Saturn very first stood up?
Man, I was anticipating it the whole time, and his whole introduction was so good. Like I feel like that's how you should introduce a character like him, and yeah, the whole thing with the spider thing. I was trying to figure out if that was like his hockey showing up before he did, and I was trying to figure out the whole like the summoning circle thing and everything. Um, But yeah, like his introduction was just so good, and I had goosebumps the whole time. It was a really good episode.
Yeah, the way he was coming out of the summoning circle really caught me off guard. It really gave me no face vibes from Spirited Away when he was the big blob monster. That was the
Mhm.
type of vibes it gave me, but that was interesting too how he was coming out. Now, I don't know exactly what that was. That might have just been like a direction choice type of thing. But what did you feel when you very first saw him in like a spider with bull horns just standing there looking menacing?
Yeah, I thought the intimidation factor was on point. And, they were showing like everyone's fights. Like so much was happening all at one time, and then he just shows up, and like it was like time froze.
Hmm.
So it was this whole thing of like, they all see him now, and he killed one of the Navy soldiers. I was surprised at that because I didn't think that he would off somebody from his side, but I guess at this point he doesn't care. He's just trying to get the Vegapunk.
Yeah, and we already know how he feels about humans, anyways, which is kind of ironic. He calls them a human, but then, I mean, he calls the human insects, but then he's a bug himself, right? He's a spider. So that's like kind of ironic with how he's saying it. But the reason why that happened, like, Doberman, the vice admiral, gave them the warning. If you're not a commodore or higher, you're not allowed to see the Gorosei at all. And then they get to see like their devil fruit forms. And so that was really crazy. Another one of the things that caught me off guard was Frankie didn't know who the Gorosei were. It's almost like at this point in time, I think only Robin knows who the Gorosei are because nobody. It seemed like nobody from the Straw Hats knew who they were. What did you think about that part?
Yeah, I was surprised too because I actually thought that like everyone knew the Grand Elders, but now that you mentioned Robin, it does make sense that she might be the only one that knows, and you know, I feel like well, I guess Luffy and them, he wouldn't know either. So it was just surprising to see that Frankie really didn't know who they were.
Yeah, I would think out of probably all of them, I would think Frankie would know besides Robin because of how tied in he was with knowing about the world government wanting Pluton and CP9 and all of that stuff. Uh Now in the midst of all of that, we saw Luffy and Kizaru's fight, and that was just an insane fight. Like it really showed that they are parallel to each other, but Luffy might be a little bit stronger as we've seen with his star punch. What did you think about Luffy's punch and his tactic? And do you think it actually took Kizaru out of the fight?
So that was one thing I was kind of trying to figure out as well as if he actually beat him, but I was kind of like, well, this isn't Saitama, so I feel like, I don't think one punch is gonna be enough to to take out Kizaru. But I had seen the it was either the producer or the director of last week's episode. He was saying that Luffy was just like toying with Kizaru, like he could have finished him off at any time. So I'm assuming based off that Luffy's much stronger. Um, the whole thing, of course, the animation is just amazing, and one moment that really caught my eye was when Kizaru, kinda, like, went forward as a beam of light, and Luffy, like, rolled off of it. That to
Yeah.
me was really cool, and I think that just, like, emphasized the goofiness of Luffy whenever he's Gear 5.
Yeah, that was really cool to see. It took me back to when he was fighting Kaido and grabbed the lightning bolt. That
Yeah,
that's it,
yeah.
it. It gave me that same type of like, hold up, how is he touching something that's not tangible, right? You can't touch light, but yet he's rolling on top of it. Uh, I found it interesting that Kizaru said something along the lines of like, "Oh, this isn't good." When he got punched, like he knew like it was going to hit him really, but it makes me wonder because what you said about what the producer was saying, Luffy really isn't trying to beat Kizaru. He's just trying to get Vegapunk away from Kizaru at this point in time, and Kizaru isn't really trying to fight Luffy. He's trying to get Luffy out of the way, at least from everything that we're seeing. Uh, do you think? Because we're starting to see that Kizaru doesn't really want to kill Vegapunk. We saw that like 2 episodes ago or something like that. Uh, do you think Kizaru is pulling his punches so he can be beat, or do you think Luffy is actually like pushing him back?
I do think Luffy's pushing him back. I think in terms of Kizaru going after Vegapunk, it's kinda just like he was given the order, like, he doesn't necessarily want to, as you were saying, like, 2 episodes ago, they showed us. Um, but now that, like, he's out of the picture and Luffy lost his power for the time being, I'm curious as to who would go up against Saturn because the next strongest is Zoro, but he's up against, Lucci, so I don't know who else would be able to come in here and, do something unless it's just like them escaping and going to Elbaf after this.
Uh, yeah, the only person that's around right now is Sanji. Sanji's probably the only person that's up to par. Obviously, we don't know how strong the Gorosei are, but with this type of entrance, we would think like, oh, they're end game strong. Like, I don't even think Luffy can handle them type of ordeal with that type of entrance. You've seen the summoning circle, like Naruto bit his hand and stuff like that, right? Uh, now Jinbei said this is an unearthly feeling he was getting or unearthly energy he was feeling. Do you think that's just like it's just overwhelming him, or do you think there's something more sinister to that one phrase that he said? Because Jinbei is more heightened and knowledgeable with sensing hockey and all this other stuff.
Yeah, I think it's just showcasing the power of the elders because I do think that they are probably stronger than just about anybody. I mean, we got Shanks, Blackbeard, a couple people that I feel would probably be able to go up against them because I kind of agree with you. I don't think Luffy is strong enough to be able to go against them. Um, So, like, in terms of Sanji, the only one that's kind of around right now to be able to go up against Saturn, he's not strong enough to go against him. So that's what I'm saying. Like, maybe they kind of escape the island instead of winning this fight because I don't see them winning this fight.
Yeah, I'd see them continuing to try and get away, and now it's just become more of an obstacle that there's a Gorosei there, which is a big surprise. Like even I think Vegapunk pretty much said the same thing that all of us said. Why would a Gorosei be coming to this island? Like what? Like why are you here right now? You're not supposed to be here. But then we see him facing everybody, and Bonnie was knocked out, but she's coming to, and she hears his name, Saint Saturn, and then she just like she's scared at first and then angry, and she goes, runs, attacks him, and actually stabs him, which is kind of a like a I guess it kind of subverts expectations of what you would expect something like that, because you would expect like him to swat her away or to dodge it or something like that. What did you think about that? Were you expecting her to land a hit on Saint Saturn?
No, not at all. The way that he was introduced and, just showed up and everything, I would assume that he would either, like, swat her away or dodge it at least, but he didn't do any of that. Um, I was trying to remember if, because you point out the memories. I was trying to remember if they showed us any of that or not from last year when they kinda touched upon the Kuma backstory just a little bit, or if we're gonna be diving into that more, in the next few episodes, because I know that we're getting the backstory even more.
I think I might be wrong, but I think the only thing we really saw was him balled up crying. I think that was the only thing that we saw about the backstory. Uh, but yeah, that was crazy, and that was another thing that they did way better than the manga, was tying in all that emotional. It was very. This whole episode really made you feel like there was something menacing going on, and then something very emotional going on as well. I think they captured the emotions the best. What was your favorite thing of this episode, and then what was your least favorite thing of the episode, if there is any?
Hmm. Well, my favorite thing is Saturn's introduction. I think it was done perfectly. Um, but least favorite, I guess if I had like maybe if I just had to say something, it would be like if we could have seen more of Zoro and Lucci, because Zoro is my favorite character. So like I'm trying to see as much of him as I can. Excuse me. So I'm just like, you know, I feel like at this point Zoro can take out Lucci, so it's just a matter of like when he will. But I also know that they're kind of like what we're currently seeing, they're kind of prolonging in order for us to get to the backstory of Kuma and Bonnie, which is my friend sent me a thing of like the next 5, 6 episodes. I
Hmm.
think we're supposed to be just touching on that for now before we
Yeah,
jump back into this. And because I know next week's a recap. So I know that
yeah,
after that, that's when we get Kuma's backstory and then um, a little bit more about Bonnie and stuff.
uh, yeah. The I saw that same list, and the way that the flashback gets triggered, it makes me wonder if they're going to do like a cliffhanger flashback, right? Like the thing that triggers the flashback, and then you're going to get the beginning of the flashback, and then to be continued, like one of those type of things. Yeah, I'd say probably I'd agree with that one. Now, before we get into predictions, I've been seeing people say this episode was over animated. I don't know if they're talking about doing too much in the episode, or if they're talking about the fluidity of the motions during certain scenes. Because there were certain scenes that kind of reminded me of like the Kira movie, where it's just so fluent, where it looks like a normal moving hand or how somebody would roll. What do you think they're talking about when they say this?
Um, I kind of feel like it has to do with the fluidity of it because a lot of people complain that like if something is animated so much that they can't tell, like they can't keep up with it, then they say that it's over animated. In my opinion, I thought it was great. I think like in terms of over animating, that's only like I think me personally is like mainly when it's 3D that I like really don't like it. Like Studio Gohan's, the way that they animate girls' hair and stuff, like, they over animate that way too
Oh,
much.
that's that studio where they put like the whole budget into flowing hair.
Yeah, yeah, like, to me, that's over animation, but, like, with
Yeah.
this, I thought it was great, and, um, we you have to think that both Kizaru and Luffy are moving at, like, light time speed, so, like,
Hmm.
it makes sense to see them moving really fast, and sometimes you might not be able to keep up with it, but, like, you could slow it down or you could pause it, there's multiple ways that you can see, like, what's happening, it's just people complaining, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think people just aren't used to this type of animation because it's usually just animation we see in movies. Uh, and like I was saying, I think in the last episode we did about Luffy and Zoro, where they had like the hyper, I call it hyper realistic, but it's really not. Where they really put a lot of detail into the movement and like everything's kind of blurry, but not blurry. I think people just aren't used to that because the first time we saw it was in Wano with Queen versus Sanji, and it was weird seeing it at that point in time. But it they're pulling it off and they're perfecting it more and more as it goes along because I think it is a new animation style that they're doing over there with Toei and everything. Uh, but what are your predictions for these next few episodes? Like you said, from the list that you saw, it is rolling into a flashback. So, is there any expectations of the flashback? Do you expect to see anything important from the flashback? Like, what are your predictions for it?
Yeah, I think it's all gonna be super sad, and they're good. They're just gonna want us to cry at this point because, from everybody who's read the manga and has told me, this backstory is really really touching, and I get like in terms of expectations, um, One Piece does stories really well.
Yeah,
Might be the best in terms of anime. So I feel like the story is gonna be told really well. The music's gonna hit. The animation's gonna hit. Um, and, we kind of has seen just a taste of it with the ending song because the ending song focuses on Kuma and Bonnie. So I kind of feel like we've already kind of been like prepared in a way. Like I know a lot of people are saying like, you're not ready. So I kind
yeah.
of feel like, yeah, I kind of feel like I tell myself I'm ready, but I won't actually be ready because it's gonna hit harder than I think it will.
It most definitely will. I'm letting you know that now. Uh, I've already got our flights booked to Japan to go fight Oda when it's done. Because I got to relive this traumatic experience. Uh, but let's go on ahead and wrap it up from there. Let us know down below what your favorite part of the episode was, and go on ahead, hit that like button, share it with all your friends and family, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.